there's a handy Christian rule used by different denominations since the 17th century. It's not quite known who the exact originator is, but the fact that it's used by a number of denominations gives it a nice broad appeal. And the rule is this: in essentials, unity; in non-essentials, liberty; and in all things, charity. Now, I would like to use this rule to frame the discussion of 1 John today. And so let's just look at a bit what this rule is and go from there. In essentials, unity; in non-essentials, liberty; in all things, charity. So I think we see four things in this. First, we see that there's variation and difference, and that needs to be dealt with. And it's dealt with by a declaration, it's the second point, a declaration that essentials need to be dealt with differently than inessentials. So that assumes that there are these two things, not just differences and no way to deal with them, but there's essentials and non-essentials. And the third point is that we need to value the non-essentials and the essentials. We need to value them differently. And above all these, or with all these, there's the assertion, a universal rule, that in all things that occur, charity is to rule. So I want to use that. So let's just see how far we can go with that. Just a note, charity is not just the giving of money. It's sometimes thought of nowadays. It's love, civility. The Greek is agape, or in Latin it's caritas. So it's a much broader notion than just giving money away, like sometimes we think of with charities, or the use of that word. Now, 1 John is a letter of exhortation. It is a letter of encouragement to a network of churches of John the Elder. They're his church plants. They're the churches he started, and he's writing them a letter, and he's exhorting them to carry on, to hold fast to their faith. The exhortation is needed for these communities because they were dealing with their first major disagreement in theology, and because of that, also dealing with a major issue of disunity. There was a breakaway faction at work, and some wanted to secede from, let's say, John's church. Some just left, but some stayed, and they differed in the essentials that they believed. And we believe the core issue was whether Jesus was incarnate or not. And so the breakaway faction denied that Jesus was human. Never mind fully human. He wasn't human. So, to put it in liturgical terms, no Christmas. There was no crucifixion either, so there was no Good Friday. And of course, tends to follow, there was no resurrection. He wasn't incarnate, didn't die, couldn't be resurrected, so no Easter as well. Now, this group, we believe, had more of a perfectionist view of God. God is perfect, so why would he become embodied and take on frail flesh like humans that we are? He just wouldn't do that, they would say. And even more importantly, to them, it was a disgraceful idea that God would actually suffer death. It just was inconceivable for them to have God on the cross in our place, experiencing that. It was too shameful, and it was essentially just unacceptable as a foundational principle. It didn't happen. So they had revisionists, they had different stories to come up to account for what the Christians claimed to occur. They had said, no, it was like this. So they would say that Jesus only appeared in the flesh. He was a shapeshifter. It was like a modern movie character, an apparition. He wasn't really flesh and bone. He just looked like it. And this is, we call it Gnostic philosophies. This is kind of where it came from. And we see this also in the second type of revisionist story where Jesus wasn't really on the cross. He was replaced by Simon of Cyrene or somebody else. And this we find in the Apocalypse of Peter in the 3rd century. It may be interesting to note that Islam also holds a similar view. For Islam, Jesus is a very important prophet. But Jesus was, according to them, too great a prophet to be allowed to die. So in Surah 4, 157 and 158, it describes how Allah took up Jesus, and he only appeared to die, only appeared to be crucified. So it's a very interesting thing that this challenge of essentials continues in a different way. The dispute was about essentials. The issue was not about whether guitars should be played in the church or not. It was a matter of core doctrine, but it wasn't only that. 2 John and 3 John are essentially cover letters to 1 John as it was sent out to these sister churches. 2 John was sent out to the elect lady and her children, and 3 John was given out to Gaius. But in them we find some more blunt descriptions of what was going on, less cryptic descriptions, less theoretical or indirect descriptions. So 3 John, we're told the ringleader's name, the one who's trying to, turn the church into, a Gnostic community. His name is Diotrephes. And we hear of some of what John alleges that he did or is doing. So 3 John, I've written something to the church, but Diotrephes, who likes to put himself first, does not acknowledge our authority. So if I come, I will call attention to what he is doing in spreading false charges against us. And not content with those charges, he refuses to welcome friends, and even prevents those who want to do so and expels them from the church. The conflict in John the Elder's churches was about essentials. In our day, it's like we might take issue with bad manners, but we would sooner deflect and tell a cover story for the discomfort that we feel or the problem that we're facing. I would say that's the norm. But deal with essentials, whether that's essentials in our theology or essentials in our problems with one another, I don't think we do that, not so much. And it's almost as if it's an expression of exhaustion, moral exhaustion. And we say, can't we all just get along? This tiredness or this fear of conflict and engagement or taking a stand or confronting the tyrant, this inclination not to deal with essentials puts us in a bit of a pickle. And I suggest to you that if all things in life are inessential, and if we use our rule, they are therefore, we get liberty in all those things, then we cannot and should not expect to get along. We should not expect charity in all things, because we're saying that nothing is essential and therefore do what you will. At whatever social level you want to take, it's my view that without essentials, chaos. And I think it's naive to think that we can just get along without having explicit, known, and shared essentials. Love to know how it works if it doesn't work like that. I think John the Elder would have liked the saying, in essentials, unity, in non-essentials, liberty, in all things, charity. Because for him, essentials were at the heart of creation. There's no imposition of a personal opinion, preference, or even just political authority or power in what he's talking about. When it comes to essentials, John sees it as already at the core of reality. He says God is love, And those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. 1 John 4:16. And this incarnational theology helps him confront perfectionism. So, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, He who is faithful and just will forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Where do you hold essentials? I'm pretty sure you have some corner of your world where things must be a certain way, and not just because it's your way or the highway, but because these things are good. Because if we want unity, we need them. Essentials, shared essentials, essentials we can talk about. And in non-essentials, liberty. But this is yet another essential, because if you don't allow freedom in the things that don't matter near as much, then you will get a lack of division between essentials and non-essentials. Therefore, you get chaos. Or you get some people saying everything that they come up with is essential. Everything must be their way. And so we get tyranny. So having some non-essentials is essential for there to be no liberty otherwise. Perhaps the can't we all just get along crowd, perhaps they're actually saying, or maybe it's not incompatible with, in all things charity. Because that is perhaps the most practical essential. Were we to exercise charity in all things, getting along would be so much easier.